My name is Rusty Gaston. I am the CEO of Sony Music Publishing Nashville. Today we kick off a new episode of Thank a Songwriter. I like to think if William Shakespeare and Mark Twain were superheroes and they were able to somehow combine their powers to one super force, it would be called Tom Douglas. Hey, to start us off, how do you actually introduce yourself? Do you introduce yourself as a songwriter, a storyteller, an artist, or something else entirely?
If I had my choice, the times that I do perform and people say, what would you like as your introduction? Honestly, I don't think there's a greater way to introduce me than just Tom Douglas, a songwriter.
I love that.
That's it.
Every songwriter's journey is unique. In Tom's first move to Nashville, the timing just wasn't right, so he ended up having to leave Music City to fall in love with songwriting again. This is a real-life story of hope and redemption. Tell us about, we want to hear about your journey kind of through Nashville. You have spoken about it a lot of places, but I love the picture that people believe when you have a hit song that your career at some point was just an overnight success.
Right.
Tell us about moving to Nashville, because you moved here and maybe, when you were dreaming that dream, it didn't end up looking like what you thought it did and you moved away. Will you tell us how you got started and what brought you to Nashville in the first place?
I moved to Nashville the first time in 1980. And the truth is, songwriting to me has honestly always been kind of a refuge from the chaos of my life. And what I mean by that is I grew up in Atlanta. I went to college, graduate school. I had a couple of jobs. And I always loved songwriting, but I couldn't really imagine doing it forever. And just the chaos of where I was at that time, 26, 27, I was kind of just miserable for no particular reason, except I guess I kind of wanted to do this thing and I was doing this other thing, and my father was ill at the time, and it was kind of a chaotic time. And honestly, the truth is, I just ran away from home at the age of 27 without a really great plan, and I just thought Nashville might be a refuge.
Oh, wow.
Oddly enough, I don't know that I've ever really articulated that before. I hadn't really thought about how songwriting has always been the calm in the storm of life to me. It's kind of the safe place. But yeah, so I came here the first time, loved it like everybody does. I wasn't prepared to be here. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a plan. I met a lot of people and I got some good experience, but.
Did you play writers' nights then? Were there writers' nights? Were there open mic nights happening?
No, there weren't. I kind of made a living writing songs for hire for a Christian record company.
Okay.
I tour managed a couple of bands that went to Europe. I pitched a catalog for Bill Lowry's catalog from Atlanta. He'd never had anybody pitching songs up here. So I just kind of pieced it together. But I did realize, I don't know, about 3 years in, that I wasn't ready to be here. I mean, once you get to Nashville and you see what the bar is for talent and what it means to be a songwriter, it's daunting.
Were there songwriters at the time that were here and active in town that you were looking up to and you were trying to set them as an aspiration to think, man, if I could write songs like them?
Well, I didn't know these guys, but they were around in the early 80s, the Harlan Howards and the Christoffersons and the Whalens and the Red Lanes and the Bob McDills. I mean, all those, they were here.
Right.
And so, you certainly kind of witnessed what those guys were doing, and it was overwhelming, but also inspiring at the same time. At least you know what the bar is. Whether or not you can ever reach that bar, who knows? But at least you know, okay, that's where it is.
So was there a moment in that first period of you living in Nashville that made you think, man, I'm not ready for this. I need to go back, or I need to move? Like, what was that thing?
Well, the music business is actually a very fair and honest business, in that if you don't get any positive reinforcement for what you're doing, either that means you have to just keep plowing ahead, which sometimes you do, but sometimes that means what you're selling, they ain't buying because it ain't good enough. And that's hard to, swallow that bitter pill. But I mean, the sooner that you can do that, the better. Then you can kind of get on with the rest of your life. But yeah, I mean, it was towards the end of my fourth year. And I just thought, I don't think Nashville is a place to practice. I think you really need to be prepared before you get to Nashville, which I often tell young writers, they say, don't you have to be present to win? And I know most people would say that's true. Honestly, I don't think that's true. I think what you need to do is get your craft together. I think you need to be a big fish in a small pond, get a little traction. You got to get some confidence. Nashville is a confidence eraser because everybody here is so good. So unless you can kind of feel like you can compete on that level, I think it's devastating for your confidence.
Yeah. And I like that analogy because I've heard that a lot of you should be the biggest fish in your pond wherever you're living and then make your way to Nashville. Because when you get here, now all of a sudden, all the fish are your size or bigger.
Yeah.
And it's a reality.
Yeah. They're
Soup,
great. They're
quick.
Great whites.
So you ended up moving to Dallas. Did you have kids yet?
No, and I wasn't married yet, but I had met my wife, Katie, and I knew I wanted to get married, and I wanted to get out of the music and forget all about songwriting, and I wanted to reinvent myself and just go do something else. It sounds overly dramatic to say, but I was really devastated because I loved it so much, and I just didn't have the ability to do it. I didn't have enough reps.
Right.
And that only comes with time.
But when you lived in Nashville the first time, is it right you had not met your wife yet?
No.
Man, so I just think of that picture of knowing you now, so much of who you are is a songwriter. God put you here to be a songwriter.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the love of your life, Katie, she is so much of a fuel of what drives you as a man and as a creator. I can just imagine you being in Texas and meeting her. That would just unlock and unleash all that creativity inside of you because the love you're feeling for her is what really began to pour out into your songs.
Yeah. Well, that's true. So I met Katie kind of at the end of my time here, and then I actually asked her to marry me and asked her father, and her father said no the first time because he knew
he heard your songs.
He heard my songs. There's a critic everywhere. And he said, you're a good kid, but you don't have your act together. I don't think this is going to be good for you or my daughter. So get a plan, get a job, get established, and then we'll talk. So that probably was, inspiration for me to get my act together. And I was like, okay, I'm actually leaving Nashville.
That sounds like the same conversation Nashville had with you the first time you moved here.
You know what? This is not really a podcast. This is like a psychiatric evaluation. I wish that there was a couch here that I could lay out. I've never thought of that either.
Wow.
It was the exact same thing. It was like, hey, man, you don't have your act together. Nashville was saying that. My father-in-law was saying that. And I mean, you hear that a lot in life. So, and this sounds cliche to say, but I mean, you do have defining moments. And this moment was, so it's not so much what happens to you, because bad, screwy things happen to everybody.
Yeah.
But it really is about, okay, how do you respond to that? And I think I took both those no's and those admonitions, and I think I said, well, I guess I got to get my act together. And so I moved to Dallas with my father, who was ill, and I just threw myself into the commercial real estate business. I just wanted something that I could give myself to where I could have some training. I wanted to get in a program, a process.
Right.
And I got with a great company, a great bunch of guys, and I did that for 13 years. about 6 or 7 years into it, the thaw of, being frozen and the devastation of being Nashville the first time, that started to slowly give way. And honestly, I mean, you've heard me say this, but I really did have an epiphany. And I was at this crossroads, and it was hot. It was August. I was cold calling a shopping center. And I remember I was talking to a prospective tenant. And at the same time, for whatever reason, I was having this argument with God. And I said, it just seems so weird that I am 39 and so incredibly disappointed with my life.
Mm.
And God said, well, you've been worshiping the creation, not me, the creator. How's that working out? And I mean, that still gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
And God said, you're a writer. You're from this family. Your past is not your poison. All that devastation, all that chaos that you think's in the past that's been a mistake, that's been exactly part of my plan. And I'm actually going to let you use that treasure trove of pain, and I'm going to let you reveal that in all these songs that are going to come back to you, and you're going to be writing about that the rest of your life.
Wow. Thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Amen to
This
that.
podcast called Thank a Songwriter, but man, he's the original songwriter.
Thank the Lord,
Yeah,
right.
the original creator.
Yeah.
So you were in Dallas, very successful real estate career. Y'all had started building a family. When did you find your way to a piano and start kind of putting some of this back out there?
Yeah, so I moved in 84. It's probably around 91, 90. And at the same time I had that spiritual epiphany, I mean, I was like, I was like, God, my eyes have been down here instead of up there. And at that moment, I really got the gift of songwriting back, the gift of creativity, because I surrendered, which, is a necessary component, I think, to be a songwriter, to be a human being, is surrender. And I surrendered, and I slowly, just the love for it came back, and I gave up any hope of any expectations. I was just enjoying it again. It was so freeing. And I used to go over to SMU in Dallas and Saturday mornings, and I would play songs, and I'd play in a Sunday school class. I'd go down to Deep Ellum sometimes, and I'd play down there. I just kind of started enjoying it again. And I joined songwriter associations in Dallas, and then I joined one in Austin. And the NSAI came to Austin in the summer of 93, and I played Little Rock for some publishers from Nashville. Paul Worley happened to be there. He didn't hear Little Rock, but I gave him a cassette.
Was Paul Worley working at this company at Sony Tree at the time?
The head creative guy.
Head of A&R here at Sony
And I
Tree.
had known Paul as a guitar player 10 years prior. Again, you think the things that you're going through, if it's not working out, you think it's all a mistake, only to know in looking back, God's taking a lot of those things and he's going to use them, in his time. So because I knew Paul Worley, we were friends, I gave him a cassette after buying him 4 glasses of wine at a cocktail party. And miraculously, he listened. He called me 2 weeks later and said, hey, man, I'm going to run. He said, let's give this a shot. I'm going to sign you to Sony, and I'm going to run with a couple of these songs. And the first one was Little Rock that he gave to Colin Ray.
Wow. That's an incredible story, and it's so filled with hope. And even though that story to you may feel like it is wrecked with tragedy of your life, step after step, from a listener's perspective, man, it's filled with so much hope.
Yes.
I don't want to gloss over the NSAI is a songwriting organization based here in Nashville. They advocate for songwriters, but they also have chapters throughout the country of smaller groups. So you actually went to a songwriting weekend that an NSAI chapter in Austin was putting together.
Yes.
And that is how you got your start. I don't want to gloss that over because, I think people may take for granted that, NSAI, that is maybe part of that is an amateur thing or it's a way to get your foot in the door. For you, oh my gosh, it really was a way to get your foot in the door, and it opened up everything and turned into a monstrous career-defining hit for you.
Yeah, it's, as you look back, now I'm 40 years old at this time. So I have 2 children. I'm a real estate broker in Dallas.
Yep.
Katie, I told her I want to go to this songwriting seminar in Austin. And honestly, at that point, most of my friends would be like, wow, when are you going to give up this hobby? Man, it's like, why don't you play golf or something? But it was a hobby, and I loved it. I love being around songwriters. And I will always be indebted to the NSAI because they give a 40-year-old real estate broker in Dallas that loves to write songs. They give him a platform to go mix and mingle with other songwriters. And they brought some great publishers from Nashville, And so, again, the outside looking in, people think it's kind of demeaning. So you're in a room with 15 people. They listen to a verse and a chorus of your song, and they give you some feedback.
Right.
And it's humbling. It's very humbling and can be demeaning if you're looking at it. But for songwriters like me, it was like being a dying man in the desert looking for water. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's all you want is just give me some constructive feedback. Give me a shot.
Yeah.
And I played Little Rock that morning, and the 2 publishers said, you're not a singer. It's not a country song. It's not a pop song. It's one of those songs that just doesn't fit anywhere. And I was like, okay, but they did listen to all 4 minutes and 45 seconds of the demo, which I thought was
something in itself.
That was a victory, I thought.
It's a win.
So again, I reconnected with Paul later that afternoon, and he was kind enough to take a cassette of that and a couple other songs.
I want to point out too, it's 2025 when we're recording this. I'm sure it's always been this way. And I remember when I was 22 and feeling just that hunger and drive of wanting to accomplish things. And when you're 22 and you're thinking about 40, it seems like a lifetime away. It basically literally is twice your lifetime. Yeah. You were 40 just now, reopening the door to that dream, and it started to work.
Yeah, it's
God's timing's perfect.
God's timing's perfect, and if you love it, you just can't give up. Yeah. I mean, the only time you really lose is if you quit.
Amen.
You just can't give up if you love it.
So Paul Worley made his way back to Nashville. He ended up listening to that cassette, I'm sure, again and again and again, determined this song was going to be great for Colin Ray. They recorded it. It became a massive hit. Tell us, do you remember the first time you actually heard the recording of Colin Ray, who's just one of the greatest vocalists in country music history? What was that moment like for you?
I think I was.
Was this your first cut ever?
My first cut ever at 41.
Okay. 41.
So I would come back to Nashville 1 week a month, still staying in the real estate business. At that time, I was signed to Sony, and they would set me up with co-writes. I would try to go see Paul every time I would come back, and he was gracious enough to see me. And I just remember sitting in his office. There are a few people that listening to a song with is magical. You really are one of them. If you can get in your office, doors closed, speakers, because you turn it up loud. So does Paul. Yeah. So did Troy Thomas. I mean, those guys, they just turn it up loud, and it's like, but that's what it was. It was right over there, in the Quonset hut, sitting in his office, and he blasted it. And
so you went back home to Texas. Was there a time you heard it on the radio for the first time?
Yes. So I had a gray Sable station wagon. At this point,
Mercury
I had
Sable.
3 small children. It was a secondhand gray Sable wagon. And I was driving down Lover's Lane from Hillcrest to Preston Road. And we always listened to the radio thinking we just might hear it on the big 96.
Yeah.
And sure enough, about 8:45
KSCS.
one night, kids asleep in the back. Katie and I were tired. I don't know where we've been. We came home, and man, it came on the radio. And you would have thought you'd have thought we'd have landed on Mars.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine the tears.
It was,
Tears of joy.
Tears of joy.
Tears of that conversation with God coming to life and him saying, I told you so.
Yeah, my time is perfect.
So that turned into a publishing deal with Sony Tree at the time. You wrote songs coming back and forth 1 week a month. How long did that go on until you determined, man, am I going to keep doing this as a hobby, or now I'm making money? If I'm going to do this for real, I've got to put all the chips in.
So that was 93, and In 97, I moved my family here. So I've now been here at Sony for 32 years.
Wow.
You and I just made that official. Thanks to you. So in 97, I remember Donna Hilly, my deal was up, and she said, I think you can do this. If you want to do this, we're going to make it possible. Just tell us what you need to move your family here. I said, it's crazy.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah. I went back, talked to Katie, and I said, I want to do this. And she said, I want to do this. And so, now at this time, I'm 45.
Okay.
I'd had a semi-successful real estate career, had a house in a church, a group of friends, and most of my friends at that time said, you're going to do what and move where?
Yeah.
But it didn't. Now, if I talk to a 45-year-old man that had 3 children, he said, I think I'm going to go to Hollywood and be an actor, I would be like, I'm going to beg you with every fiber of my body, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster. But I don't know.
In this case, it was the perfect recipe God had put together. And I love that you said it was a yes for you, but it was a yes for Katie.
Yeah.
Because that's the most important one.
Right. But I couldn't have done it without her.
Yeah.
I mean, still couldn't do it without
To have her belief.
She's listened to every one of my 3,000 songs multiple times.
She could be a publisher.
She could actually be a songwriter. She's written half the songs. I just don't give her any credit.
Well, she gets more than half. In a town like Music City, surrounded by so many talented songwriters, it can be difficult to find your unique voice. But Tom tapped into a style that strikes right at the hearts and daily lives of every country music listener. He found inspiration in its surroundings and crafted songs that have impacted millions of listeners' lives. So, after you moved here, how was it different? Because I would think mentally, when you're coming to town once a month, you get into a rhythm of creating at that pace. And I would assume the other 3 weeks of a month you're in Texas, you kind of have a routine. You're writing by yourself. You're gathering ideas.
Yeah.
But then when you're here every single day and you fall into that routine of, hey, getting put into co-writes is normal, and they probably put you into more than you wanted to be in. So let's talk about what was that like facing the reality of, okay, now you're here, really in the thick of it, and what does that look like? How did you transition to finding a new rhythm?
Very uneven. It was disastrous because I had spent from the time I was 31 until 41 finally learning to write a song by myself.
Right.
And then you come to Nashville and it's like a kid in a candy store. You're with all these people. It's so exciting. They're just fascinating. They're interesting people. And I lost myself for really a few years. I got in these rooms and I was writing too much, and it was, again, it's all part of the process. There's no way to go through this without making many, many mistakes. So, and then
I tell people all the time, I think 90% of this writing hit songs is mental.
Yeah.
But also to young songwriters, the first 3 or 4 years of writing professionally with a publishing deal, it's just about figuring out what your creative process is.
Yeah.
You need to write too much to burn out, and to learn how to recover from burnout, you need to have time where you don't write enough and there's not enough productivity, and you realize you're not putting enough wood into the fire to keep it warm.
Right.
It takes several years to figure that stuff out, how to work in the studio, how to communicate with musicians, how to make demos. But you kind of went through that at 45, moving here. Even though you'd already written a hit song, you're kind of really thrown into the fire of figuring out a process after moving here with the family and kids.
Right.
That had to be kind of daunting and soul shaking a bit.
It is. It was. And when I went to SMU on those Saturday mornings, and they had a music department. In those days, you could literally go into a music department on college campuses and they would have
You literally walk into a music building where there's rooms that have pianos
50
in them.
rooms.
You just went into a room, started playing piano.
I would pick a grand piano and just go in there, close the door, and have a cup of, it'd be early in the morning. And I just kind of mess around. And so I found that guy, the guy that wrote Little Rock. I finally found him. And that was 92-ish. And then I've been looking for that guy ever since.
Right.
I occasionally see him. I get glimpses of him. Sometimes he'll sit next to me on the piano bench. Most times he won't. But that's the guy I'm trying to always find, that guy again. And in the process of this, it's hard to find him, and it's very easy to lose him.
Yeah.
So
what do you love about Nashville and the songwriting community?
Well, I love that it is a community. I mean, it is the majority of us, I think of songwriting not as a zero-sum game, which is if you got a song that's a hit, that means I lose something. I don't feel like that. Most of my friends and collaborators, we know it's so hard that we're amazed. And we all want to be inspired. At this point, I want to hear a song that just inspires me. It's a very small town. It's a small group of people that do this. And I think we want to compete. But at the same time, we just kind of stand back there and think, man, way to go. I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing. When you see
somebody else achieve a victory, firsthand the mountains they had to cross to get there.
Right.
And if that doesn't make you tear up and appreciate it, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
For sure.
So were there any positives you took out of those first few years as you came in and you were just basically thrown into co-writing? Obviously, again, you found yourself at some point, but for those initial 3 years, what were the positives you took out of that?
Well, you have to find your team. You have to find your group of people, your group of collaborators. And early on, I met some people that believed. Buzz Cason, Alan Shamblin, Billy Kirsch. Some of these guys I don't even see anymore, and some of them have passed on. But, you find Steve Seskin, those early group, of people that, and Paul continued to be a believer and record my songs with Martina. And then I kind of connected with Byron and Missy and Tim McGraw, and they became supporters and encouragers, and they started getting a few songs recorded. And, it's a momentum shift. It's a confidence builder. You have to have a modicum of success to keep going.
Yeah.
But I was very fortunate that what I did was kind of singular and unique. It did stand out. It wasn't like I was trying to. I try to fit in, which never works. So I have a very singular thing that I do. And when I do that, it doesn't work most of the time. But when it does work, it really works. I think I kind of found that, okay, I wish I did this. I wish I did that, but I don't. I do this. And
did you experience a time in your creative process where you, like when you said you wish you did this, you wish you did that, did you try to do this? Did you try to do that all to help you rediscover, what I am is this natural Southern poet?
Yeah. I mean, I remember, it seems like maybe this sounds like an exaggeration. I'm not sure it is. I think I chased trying to get a Faith Hill cut for like maybe a year and a half, like in the early 2000s when she was, so hot. I kind of became obsessed with that. And
it's funny. It's the same time you were writing all the Martina McBride hits.
We only want what we don't have.
Yes.
Crazy.
Exactly.
The human condition.
Yeah.
I never did get a Faith Hill cut, but I still love Faith Hill.
Yeah.
And I love Martina.
Yes. Amen. God bless them both. Do a couple stories come to mind of real life inspiration that led to some of these songs? Because when you listen through to your catalog, there's an extra amount of heart and realness and just true life in your songs?
Well, yeah, I think the songs that have had traction, they usually have the initial inspiration usually is in some real life experience. Grown Men Don't Cry was a result of Tommy, who's now 31. He was probably in third grade at Oak Hill, right at Franklin Road and Tyne Boulevard. I was supposed to bring donuts to his third grade class. I was supposed to get them the night before. Realized, oh my gosh, I forgot to get the donuts. So I dropped him off, and then I raced down early in the morning to the Harris Teeter, which is on Franklin Road. I rushed in the Harris Teeter, and there was, I don't know what year this was, maybe 99 or 2000. There was a lady on a payphone. She was weeping. She looked destitute. A little boy was winding himself in and out of his mother's legs as she's talking on the phone. I rush in, I get the donuts. I remember I had a shiny black Suburban. I was so proud of it. Get the donuts, I rush back out. As I'm rushing back out, I see this woman and her little boy in a 1968 Toyota Corolla with newspapers for beds and cans, and this lady's just kind of sitting in the front seat. She's like numb. As I was raced by with the donuts in my shiny black Suburban, I thought, I should do something, shouldn't I? But I had to get the donuts to the third graders in my shiny black Suburban. So I just hopped in, raced down, got the donuts, left, went home. And then about 2 hours later, it was almost like I had been hit by a truck. I was so overwhelmed with guilt and shame about, wow, I could have done a little, I could have done something. It was overwhelming. And I just remember sitting down and I just thought, songs to me, they're almost like confessions. They're almost like prayers.
Yeah.
And I think that first verse, I pulled into the shopping center and saw a little boy wrapped around the legs of his mother. Like ice cream melting, they embraced years of bad decisions running down her face. I just thought, yeah, that's what it was. I don't know why they say grown men don't cry. It makes me cry now.
Yeah.
And so, and then I got with Steve
right in that
Seskin.
moment.
That next verse, people think it's about my father, but it's not. He had a tough relationship with his dad, and I'm sitting on the front porch with my old man watching the sun go down. He wanted to have a conversation with his dad, but his dad was never around. And so, it's kind of vignettes, but a happier vignette at the end, the third verse. But yeah, songs like that, they're just confessions.
Wow. So powerful.
Well, it's true. The truth is what lasts.
Yep. The truth sticks out. So in all the years, you said, how many years have you been writing songs? 35-ish?
Yeah.
What is different about writing songs today than it was 30 years ago?
It's more fun today. It's more exciting. I love it more than I did then. It's magic. It is a magic act. We get to participate in a magic act. And you and I have talked about this, but in the first sentence in the Bible is, in the beginning, God created. We are able to participate in this creative thing that started all that time ago, and we get to participate in creativity. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
It is incredible.
And when you get into that flow and it's really coming together, I just can't imagine there's just nothing like it. And then you're hooked. It's in your veins, and you just need to recreate that again and again.
Yeah, it never gets old. It's frustrating. It's the end result is often frustrating. But
do you find joy in the process more today than you did early on?
Yeah, I do. I think that's the only way that you can keep going for long periods of time. There are not that many guys that are my age that are still doing it and still enjoying it. There are Tim Nichols, Bobby Braddock, Bill Anderson. There are a few, but I don't know. I guess you lose the joy of the process. and you start focusing too much on the end result. But you still have to kind of act like you're just a kid. The fun thing is to collaborate with somebody else that brings out that 16-year-old in you.
Right.
Like J.T. Harding is like a perfect example of one of our co-writers. He kind of brings out that kid that would come over to your house after school and show you how to play a B minor.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean,
Look at this.
Look at this.
Yeah.
To have a few of those relationships is really fun.
I know you also spent some time giving back and teaching at songwriting students at Belmont, but one day I remember standing in this Sony parking lot. Legendary songwriter Tony Martin was out in the parking lot, and I said to Tony, I said, "What are you doing today?" And he said, "Well," he said, "you see down the street," he said, "there's a school full of kids, and they're going to be writing songs, and they think they're writing about love for the very first time.
Wow.
I'm going to go in this building and try to figure out how to find that excitement to make myself believe I'm writing about love for the very first time." And that goes back to what you were just saying, what JT, being that kid showing you that guitar chord for the first time, that pure adrenaline-fueled excitement you get, and you have to chase and find that every time.
You have to, because honestly, as you and I have talked before, songs have never been more important than this day and age. I mean, art, God gives us art. They rescue us from the grind, the misery of life. They elevate us. They inspire us. It gives us something to aspire to. It's joyful. It makes us feel things again, where the culture is trying to make us all amnesiacs. I mean, what we do is so important.
It is. And you've had so much success, but I do want us to touch on, for all the songwriters that may be listening to this, or even the music publishers, the business people, or just fans of music that are listening to this. You write this song, you have poured so much of your heart and soul into it, and then maybe it never goes on hold. You get a song recorded by one of your favorite artists, and it does not end up making the project, or you're certain this song will change an artist's career and they never release it as a single. Do those things actually cause pain, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah, again, as a songwriter, I think you're allowed to make extreme statements, but those are little tragedies. I mean, they are devastating. It almost kills you. Yeah. Almost. I know that sounds overly dramatic, but anybody that's a songwriter, or
I get it.
You get it too. We're all in this together, and it's you have to allow yourself a period of time to really grieve the loss. And you have to find a few people that you can just tell them how bad it hurts, and they're not going to try to talk you out of it.
Right.
They're just going to listen.
Yeah.
And then you have to force yourself to get back over it. And honestly, the only thing that I know is the cure-all remedy for the devastation that this profession causes is one great idea rescues everything.
Yeah.
If you come up with that one great idea, you're good.
Yeah.
It is magic. It allows you to leave that behind, and it reminds you that the greatest song that you're going to write is the next one.
Yeah.
And that is the remedy. And I find that through reading great works of fiction, through movies, through usually it's through reading. That's where I really, whether it be scripture or whether it be, Hemingway, it doesn't matter. It's just feeding that creative soul and finding that thing that you're like, oh man, that I can chase.
Man, speaking of feeding that creative soul, you have taken your songwriting and expanded upon that and written performance shows. You have turned that into an actual film. You have written books. Tell us about those other forms of creativity, and how do they all circle back and feed into your songwriting?
Songwriting is the foundation. All those other things, the performance, the live performance, the novellas, the Substack, all those things are really just kind of ancillary to songwriting. Songwriting it's so expansive and so there's so much to it that an example of that is this. There's a song that Tim McGraw has recorded. It's called King Rodeo.
Okay.
And it's a song that talks about this aging rodeo star, written from the standpoint, you find out at the very end of the song that the narrator of the song is this rodeo clown. I was talking to Tim about that and like, hey, what if this was a movie or a miniseries? And so we've taken just that song and then kind of created at least an outline for a 7-episode miniseries on
Right.
King Rodeo. And all these different characters, the love interest, the aging rodeo star who's dealing with, a battered body and alcoholism, and this young rodeo star, this young rodeo clown that aspires to be. So I don't know, just one idea like that.
Yeah.
Is it's amazing, where these songs can
But do
go.
you use that to feed? Do you use that idea to be the catalyst to turn into 11 other songs?
Yeah, and so then once you have this outline for these other songs, and you think, wow, each episode could have a couple of songs to it. So you write original songs that go with this. On all these, I release now my fiction on Substack. They're narrations, they're stories, but I include songs. The thing that I think is very interesting is you can write long form fiction, but then you write songs that really propel the narrative.
Right.
The songs become part of the narrative.
Yeah.
I just think that's a great way to exhibit a song and see what a song can do to, continue to tell a story rather than just the narration itself.
I love that. Man, you went out and produced and created a film called Love, Tom that has reached tremendous success, very critically acclaimed. Will you tell us about the process of, I believe you started that as a one-man show and then it ended up becoming a film in itself. How did you put together what Love, Tom is?
Yeah. I was honored to be inducted into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2014.
Yep.
And my acceptance speech was 12 minutes. Instead of giving the typical acceptance speech, like to thank my third grade teacher and so on and so forth,
Yeah.
I thought it'd be more interesting if I wrote my acceptance speech as a letter to a desperate songwriter that was getting ready to quit about the reasons why he should stay.
Yeah.
And why he should do it. At the end of the 12-minute speech, it's like, the reason why you're here and the reason why you're important is because I'm going to get lost. I'll need to follow your song. So write that song to help me find myself. 12 minutes. It became viral. Somebody videoed it. It became viral, and people would, all walks of life. It was wherever I would go, people would say, man, I saw your acceptance speech. And I was like, it was an honor, and it was also kind of mystifying. And honestly, it was like, I don't know, it kind of bothered me after a while. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? Songwriters were always trying to leverage one thing into the next instead of just enjoying that thing.
Right.
In 2018, I was at a low point. And that was before you came on the scene and rescued me from my lowness. And I got to see Bruce Springsteen on Broadway.
One-man show.
One-man show. Saw that, stories and songs. And I thought, that's the template. Now I could take my 12-minute acceptance speech, turn that into a performance. So my son Tommy and I worked on it. We turned it into a 1-hour performance called Love, Tom. I performed it hundreds of times, no matter where I was. And I just enjoyed doing it, stories and songs. And an Irish film director, Michael Lennox, saw the performance and said, I know how to make a movie of that. And so in 2020, right before COVID shut everything down, we filmed over about 7 nights. We filmed this. It's really just the day and the night in the life of a songwriter in Nashville. The city of Nashville is one of the characters in it. And we filmed it. It took us about a year to edit and put it all together. And then we got some folks to help us, Jason Owen, and is on Paramount Plus, and now it's on Apple TV and Amazon.
Love that. Well, if you're listening, go search out Love Tom. Watch it. Tell all your friends and family. Tom, our podcast is called Thank a Songwriter. It's because if you are in the music business, make your living in the music business, we believe every position in the music business only exists because of the blood, sweat, and tears put forth by a songwriter. And I often say, if you work in the music business and you go home and you flip on your light switch and electricity comes on, you should thank a songwriter. If there's food on the table, you should thank a songwriter. And we have a letter here that someone sent in that wants to thank you personally. And it says, "Dear Tom, I just wanted to take a moment to sincerely thank you for writing The House That Built Me. A few years ago, after a difficult chapter in my life, I made the decision to visit my childhood home, a place I hadn't been back to in years. Walking through those rooms brought back a flood of emotions and memories. Like the song says, going back wasn't just about the place itself, but about reconnecting with the person that I used to be. That visit made me realize how much I have grown since those days. The little girl who lived in that house once dreamed big dreams she wasn't sure she could ever reach. But standing there in that house, I recognized I've become that woman she hoped to be, shaped in part by the memories and foundations that that house gave me. Thank you for writing something so honest and healing. It's a gift that I carry with me and will carry with me always. Love, Shannon."
Wow.
Tom, your songs, they are above and beyond. They are a cut above. And we are so grateful for what you do because we desperately believe that greatness deserves gratitude. Thank you for being here today. And thank you for writing the soundtracks to our lives.
Wow. Honored to be here. Thank you, Rusty, for believing in dreamers. Couldn't do it without you.
And thank you for listening to Thank a Songwriter, where we honor the songwriters who have written songs that have impacted our lives. Be sure to follow us at Sony Music Pub in Nashville. Send us your thank you notes, and the next time you listen to a song that impacts your life, be sure to thank a songwriter.